we about to do this time. This time we about to get into a new video. This video is a long video. I'm gonna give y'all the heads up right now. This thing like 30 minutes without no commentary. So you know when you add this commentary, we're gonna be pushing it about 40 minutes. So make sure you grab your popcorn. You know, I already came preloaded with my cookie pre-roll. We're gonna be on that Georgia pie today, but the video we're gonna watch today is called A Rich White Crip, the Cameron Terrel story. And this is a story that I've seen before previously online, and it's about a white cat who was a Crip, and he was official. He was in the hood. He was doing all the shit that gangsters do in the hood, right? Accepted by the majority. And when he got bumped for doing some dirt, he went ahead and used his white privilege to his advantage. And you know, a lot of people thumb that down, and from what I've read online, it says that he's still active, still to this day. Do I know that's true? I don't know. Y'all tell me in the comments. But you know, we're gonna peep this video. We're gonna do like we always do. We're gonna hit the pause button. We're gonna talk about it in the comments, and y'all can share y'all thoughts, and shit, we're gonna take it from there. But you know, let's go ahead and hit play. I'm gonna go ahead and fire this thing up, and we're gonna talk about it.
South Central Los Angeles is world famous. Whether it's for the gangster rap pioneers of NWA that gave us Straight Outta Compton and the careers of Dr. Dre and Ice Cube, or iconic movies depicting local gang culture like Boys in the Hood. For years, all over LA and the world at large, people have been fascinated about life on the most dangerous streets of the world's most famous city. And of course, the real gangs behind the popular media are nothing to be trivialized. Los Angeles was the birthplace of modern day gang culture. The Bloods and Crips emerged out of LA, bringing decades of violence and bloodshed to their inner city communities. And unfortunately, as the years have gone by, young, vulnerable men growing up in difficult areas have been born into an endless cycle of gang violence, bringing decades of death and destruction to black and other minority communities in the city. With this whole situation made even worse by institutional racism and a lack of investment into these communities that need the help the most. But today's story isn't about a disadvantaged youth born into a difficult situation, using their talents in music to overcome and escape the dangers of the street life. No, today we're taking a look at what happens when a rich, privileged white teenager becomes obsessed with gang culture and decides to cross the border from the affluent gated community they were born into to the dangerous gang-affiliated streets of South Central, making an active choice to shun their privilege and join the rolling.
Now, ain't this some shit though? The motherfucker doing the review, like, this motherfucker is the last motherfucker I think that would be covering a story like this. You know what I mean? He got a bowl haircut. He got the motherfucking Coke bottle glasses, and motherfucking he gonna break down Crippin' in the story of the rich white Crip. And it's mind-boggling though. You know what I mean? The cat they talking about, Cameron Terrel, he came from privilege, and like you said, he want to shun all that, and he want to be in the hood. You know why the hood be pulling people in is because there's no rules. You do anything and everything you want to do. I'm sure in that rich white family, I'm sure you got rules and regulations you got to abide by. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's go ahead and watch the video.
However, when things escalate and a young man loses his life at the hands of gang violence, that young well-off man would flee South Central, returning to the safety of his wealthy community and parents' home. And with the help of his rich parents, an eye-watering amount of money, and a seemingly prejudiced legal system, he would completely avoid any responsibility for his actions, whilst his two black co-defendants rot in jail facing full-blown murder charges. This is the story of Cameron Terrel, aka the Rich White Crip.
You'll be walking down the street and you'll see like a group of black dudes walking, you know, thugs. In a group they got like one or two, sometimes as many as 3 white guys will be with them. You ever seen this shit? Those white guys are the most dangerous motherfuckers in them groups.
Cameron Terrel in many ways won the birth lottery when he was born. He popped out on US soil as a white man to 2 extremely wealthy parents. Cameron was the only child of interior designer Deborah Terrel and media executive Donald Wayne Terrel. His father Donald, at the time of this story taking place, was the president of a successful media consulting firm called New and Improved Media in El Segundo, California. With over 25 years in the game, having worked with brands like Fox, McDonald's, Nike, and the California Lottery. And his company was working with the biggest TV network networks in the game too. Clearly the marketing game was lucrative for the Terrells, as they were able to raise their son Cameron in a luxury property on the exclusive Palos Verdes estates, in what Forbes once described as one of America's most expensive zip codes, with the average household income there back in 2015 being a whopping $245,000. The Terrells' mansion-style home was allegedly 3,878 square feet with a price tag of a whopping $1.8 million. And they had a whole lot of luxury vehicles parked outside too, with a Porsche Cayenne SUV regularly spotted in the driveway, and Cameron himself known for driving a brand new Mercedes. Cameron would attend the local Palos Verdes High School, and by all accounts he grew up as a normal suburban kid. His life wasn't short of privilege, and growing up he would get opportunities to broaden his horizons and see the world, reportedly vacationing in Mexico at beaches and resorts where Cameron would enjoy fishing, dirt biking, and board games with his family. However, at some point, trouble would emerge in the domestic bliss of the Terrells' household, with his lawyer later revealing,
"Old boy was living good as a motherfucker. Family well off, mom well off, father. How often do y'all see a mother and a father like that sticking together by the age? This kid's 16, still got his mom and dad. That shows you he had a good household. They really tried to raise him, and I bet his mom and dad really feel some kind of way about the path that he's taking and why he's taking that. But he's about to get into it. I paused it too soon, but he about to break down the little trouble issues that he had with his parents ran away. But it's crazy. This man, think about it. He had all the opportunities to never have a record, never get in no bullshit. But the streets is calling. The streets is calling way up there in them rich hills where he was living at. But we're gonna hear the rest.
The issues with his parents' relationship drove Cameron to rebel, spending more time out of the house and eventually hanging out in a South Central LA park where he would befriend local teenagers. Story has it that Cameron would run away from home, spending weeks at a time with his new friends' families, eventually even calling other women who had taken him in mum. And over time, these friends that he made hanging out in South Central would be approached by older men in their community, eventually being inducted into the local gang, the Rolling 90s Crips. And in the end, it would be Cameron's connection to this very street gang that would spark a series of events that would eventually see another young man losing his life, and Cameron and his friends behind bars facing murder charges.
So, now I was about to get into the whole story, but what it just basically said is he ran into some OGs, some older cats, and them older cats went ahead and put them on. They said you gonna be from 90s. So, okay, so the OGs put him on and said he could be the 90s. What do you think their motive was allowing this cat to be on there? What do you think they're really doing with that? You think they seen he was a crash dummy. They knew that he had money, his family had money. And what do you think they was gonna do? They was gonna exploit that. You don't think that they was really just met this cat and thought he was, oh yeah, he really should be from the turf, man. He could bang the hood, and oh, this is a crash dummy. This is a missile we gonna shoot at the opposition whenever the opposition get to tripping. Come on now.
The blue bandana wearing Crips are one of the world's most infamous gangs. Starting out in Los Angeles as early as 1969, the Crips are a loosely connected network of sets operating in different areas all over the city, and the particular set that Cameron Terrell ended up becoming affiliated with were known as the Rolling 90s, part of the larger Neighborhood Crip Alliance, or CARD. Now, there's numerous Neighborhood Crip sets in the Alliance whose names correspond to the streets their crew are from. For example, the Rolling 90s might be friendly with the Rolling 60s, of which Nipsey Hussle was famously a member. With many sets belonging to the Neighborhood Crip CARD, this doesn't necessarily mean that all Crip sets in Los Angeles are friendly to each other. In fact, the Neighborhood Crips have a long-running feud with another CARD known as the Gangster Crips. For example, the 8-3 Gangster Crips, or 8-Tray, located nearby. This means that essentially, a Rolling 90s Crip could take one wrong turn into nearby 8-Tray territory and find themselves being killed on sight, and vice versa. Now, Rolling 90s territory is a stretch from Van Ness Avenue and Western Avenue between Manchester Boulevard and Century Boulevard. With the street of Western
You know what be messing me up when I watch this though is that, once again, it's the dude that's presenting it. Just look at him and he's breaking down gang territories and knowledge, and he's explaining cripping in California, South Central, as a professional on the internet to the world at large, and he's making money off it. Never in my life did I think I'd ever be able to see some shit like I'm experiencing right now. That shit is crazy. He talking about the Crip car, man, that should be fucking me up. I'm so used to hearing Crip car in a different kind of setting. You know what I mean? You don't hear it. I don't know. It's a mind fuck to me. But let's get back to it.
Avenue that runs through this territory being a symbolic place of importance for the rolling 90s Crips. And as a way of signalling their allegiance to the group, members often wear t-shirts reading Western Avenue. Another example of this is the regular use by rolling 90s Crips of the logo of the sports team the Washington Nationals due to the prominence of the letter W in their logo, with the W standing once again for Western Avenue. Now, another important location for the rolling 90s is nearby Jesse Owens Park, and it's believed that this is where Cameron Terrel was initiated into the rolling 90s Crips, and it's also where he spent a lot of time after departing his family home over 20 miles away from where he lived. In fact, the father of one of his eventual co-defendants would even tell reporters that Cameron Terrel would often pull up to the area in his brand new Mercedes, and over time becoming heavily involved in street activity going on in the area. According to a later LA Times article quoting his own lawyer, Cameron apparently thought that the gang lifestyle was cool, and over this period, in his spare time, he was closely studying gang culture, apparently going on what was described as an LA gang binge, reading numerous books about gang life in the city. And once he'd been initiated into the rolling 90s, Cameron will begin to be seen regularly wearing blue on social media, hanging around at the park wearing a blue bandana, and riding around the area.
They called that a LA rap or LA gangbang binge. He went on a binge, like he sat in front of a motherfucking Netflix for 10 hours and learned everything he could about gangbang. Now he in the park, flag around his neck. Probably got a pistol on him, he probably pop a motherfucker too. This shit crazy, motherfucking young kid had all the opportunity in the world to go anywhere, do anything, motherfucking he want to hang out in the park and bang. That shit's crazy.
In luxury cars with his friends. As I've already mentioned, Cameron was known for driving a brand new Mercedes, which allegedly he even became known in the area for letting people borrow. In addition to that, it's also believed that he would regularly give away luxury designer clothes to his gang-affiliated friends. At a certain point, Cameron Terrel would swap his family fishing vacations in Mexico for spring break with the Crips. He would even get a tattoo of the Washington Nationals W on his chest to represent his love for Western Avenue. And eventually, Cameron would even appear in a music video for a song called Neighborhood Anthem, a literal anthem for the neighborhood Crips. In that video, numerous other people with a tattoo of the Washington Nationals W would appear alongside Cameron, who appeared extensively wearing a blue bandana, surrounded by fellow Crips, as well as a whole bunch of weapons. Cameron himself would appear extensively in this video, rapping along to the song, seemingly even rapping along to the N-word numerous times.
And if a nigga want war, nigga, all that.
Now, some people in the comments have mocked Cameron, with some even joking that the iced out Hugh...
You know, it's crazy. Everybody in that motherfucking crowd, kids though, you know what I mean? They kids. And when I say kids, I'm not saying they ain't young people with, you know, motherfucking making money and shit. That's cool, but they kids though. They ain't really motherfucking, I think the oldest person in there probably like 25. Man, you know how long you live. Even if you live to be 60, 25 is only that small percentage. Look, these are all kids. All these and that's a small portion of the majority that's really out there. And all these kids right here. But I wonder though, in California, I don't know. Y'all gotta tell me in the comments because I ain't too familiar. But like in the pens and in the jail system, is there a gang of white Crips in California now? Because back in the day, there used to be a few, and I feel like there's still a few now. But you know, with the culture of gangbanging being so everywhere, right? Everybody, look at this. Look at the guy. We got it on pause right here. He breaking this down to us. And I don't mean to knock it because he know his shit, right? But tell me though, is there a lot of white Bloods and white Crips that really are official? Like, I don't know. I'll be seeing this shit online. I'll be seeing motherfuckers on YouTube and shit. But, you know, I don't know. You know, y'all tell me, but let's get back to it.
Blow watch in the video must have belonged to Milk's father. Milk being a nickname that Cameron had adopted around this time, which he would use publicly on his Facebook, which he also updated to include another reference to the Washington Nationals. Other nicknames reportedly given to Cameron around this time were White Boy, as well as Bright Eyes or Blue Eyes. Clearly, Cameron Terrel had become truly integrated into the rolling 90s Crips. And despite his privileged upbringing, he had escaped the suburban bliss of Palos Verdes and become a truly accepted member of the South Central gang world. However, he would soon find out that there was more to gangbanging than music videos, tattoos, and blue bandanas, and he would end up in a situation where another young man would end up losing his life, and at least for a moment, it seemed as if Cameron would have to face up to the full consequences of life as a gangbanger. On October the 1st, 2017, Cameron Terrel would drive two friends in the Mercedes-Benz his father bought him to the intersection of West 78th Street and Western Avenue, allegedly the territory of the rolling 90s main rivals, the 8-tray gangster Crips. The people in Cameron's car were armed and looking for confrontation. Two young men would jump out the back of the black Mercedes, whilst Cameron remained inside. At about 11:26 AM, Justin Holmes and two other men were walking west on West 78th Street, approaching Southwestern Avenue. They would be approached by Cameron's two friends, who allegedly asked Holmes and his friends what gang they were from. Holmes allegedly told the teens that he didn't gangbang. In fact, he was reportedly working a legitimate job for U-Haul at this time and only visiting his friends in the area on his day off. However, clearly, this isn't the answer the rolling 90s were looking for, as this exchange would be followed by somebody pulling a gun and opening fire. Holmes would be wounded by these gunshots, while the two shooters would run back to the Mercedes, getting inside as Cameron Terrel hit the gas and escaped, with this frantic getaway even being captured on surveillance video. 21-year-old Justin Alongino Holmes would be taken to hospital and pronounced dead at 12:02 PM. According to later claims by prosecutors, Cameron Terrel went home the very night of the murder and recorded a video in his own bathroom, throwing gang signs and essentially celebrating the murder that would enhance his status within the gang. In addition to this, video would later surface where Terrel had seemingly returned to the scene of the murder just 6 days later, filming his friends kicking over the candles at a memorial for the victim left at the scene of the crime. With all of this in mind, most reasonable people would think that Cameron's involvement in the crime was cut and dry. However, as Cameron, his co-defendants, and the whole world was about to find out, Cameron Terrel had an ace up his sleeve, which unfortunately, his co-defendants did not share.
What they didn't share is they didn't have no money. He ran back to his dad and his mom, and they had some money, and they put up a lawyer, and that's what he went and did. They paid that lawyer to go in that courtroom and argue for their son in a state of law. And believe me, the other one's got a public defender. You know what I mean? But you know, another thing that stands out to me when I watch this shit is that ultimately, once again, the devil be working overtime. And when I say the devil be working overtime, it's because look at what you got to do, a murder. You got to do one of the most heinous things in front of God's eyes. And don't get me wrong, God doesn't see it all, but to murder, to be accepted, to have ranking, that shit shows you we have fallen mankind, because golly, look at that. That's what we got to do. Look how he's trying to get the youth, though. Been getting the youth, and consistently the youth is getting worse. The devil working overtime.
18-year-old Cameron Terrel and his two juvenile co-defendants would be arrested on October the 12th, 2017, on charges of premeditated murder of Justin Holmes and 2 attempted murder charges for the friends that were with him that day. The suspects were arrested just 12 days after the murder and 6 days after vandalizing the victim's memorial. The two shooters, who were under 18 at the time of the arrest, would be held in a juvenile facility, the Sylmar Juvenile Hall. But unlike his African-American co-defendants who would remain incarcerated, Cameron would be back on the streets just a week later, by October 19th. Cameron Terrel was reportedly set a $5 million bail, with his rich parents immediately fronting up $500,000 in cash to get him out no less than a week after his arrest. Cameron would subsequently be spotted in public enjoying a World Series baseball game at LA's Dodger Stadium, reportedly just days after his release. All while his two co-defendants, two African-American teens, later revealed to be aged 16 and 17, would remain incarcerated without bail. Civil rights attorneys at the time would call out this decision to grant rich white Cameron Terrel bail and deny it to his poorer black co-defendants, suggesting that this was a double standard. With all of that in mind, it's no surprise that this was bringing a lot of negative attention to the Terrel family. Not only were the news admonishing them for enjoying public life after such a heinous crime had been committed, but soon internet trolls would also play a part, beginning to leave negative reviews for Cameron's father's business, New and Improved Media, with one hilarious review saying, "They have some killer instincts and will provide great getaway ideas for any client regardless of gang affiliation." Initially, it was thought that the local Palos Verdes high school that he attended would stick by him and allow him to continue attending classes, with the school district superintendent initially suggesting that Cameron still had a right to an education, claiming that it would take more to exclude a student from the school. However, pressure began piling up as parents of other children at the school began to protest, with a November the 13th demonstration seeing furious parents gathering at the school demanding Terrel be suspended from classes, with direct reports from other parents suggesting that they feared gang retaliations targeting Terrel, catching their kids in the crossfire.
This morning, a group of parents stand on the corner of PV High School while another walks out from talking to the principal, trying to get an corner of PV.
They that good area right there. Them people coming to protest. They coming to protest fast and quick. Look at that little small group making that much noise. Crazy. They making that much noise and they gonna get through with it. And motherfucking, here we are as a motherfucking a large group of consensus people, and we can't even get along over the weekend. We shooting one another and shit. That shit crazy. That should be sad than a motherfucker what this world done came to.
I'm not thoroughly convinced that they have this under control.
To have an adult who is charged with the worst crime possible being allowed to attend school with 3,000 kids. It's not right, and I believe the education code supports his suspension.
Parents telling us if there are gang ties, they are worried about possible retaliation. One parent showing us the email response she received from the superintendent regarding her concern about student safety.
One woman being interviewed by the news suggested that other children are scared to come to school and that she believed that Terrel was proud of being able to walk back onto campus after catching a murder charge.
I care about the safety of my student, and nobody from the school district has communicated to me what they are doing for the safety of our students that are here. We've got attorneys that work for this school, and they need to get this kid out. My students told me things that, you know, the kid's very confident about walking on this campus, and this is kind of a braggadocious badge of honor for him. The individual is not stable, and they can't predict what he's going to do on any level, and he should not be a danger to our children here.
Following the parent protest, it was reported that the school had changed course and confirmed that Cameron Terrel would no longer be attending classes at the exclusive school, with it being stated that Terrell's continued attendance at the school would be a distraction and potential danger to other students. All of this negative attention led the Terrel family.
Meanwhile, I bet you them other students, I bet they be getting high, they be motherfucking popping motherfucking all kind of pills and motherfucking doing lines. I done been to an upper white classroom like that, and man, them motherfuckers right there ain't no joke. Meanwhile, they outside making a big ordeal about this because he got a gang offense with murder charge. And I get it, you know, you can see the angle, but it's a 10 on a 2. Think about the real inner city and how often regular shit like this be happening. Like, then you just go back to jail to have the taxpayer bills pay you to go to school and get your GED. Come on now.
To withdraw from public life, with ABC 7 News doorstepping the family at their luxurious home but receiving no comment.
Terrel isn't from South LA. He's from this affluent section of Palos Verdes, where Eyewitness News reporter Carlos Granda recently visited the family's home to see if anyone would comment.
Hi, I'm here from Channel 7. I was trying to see if anyone is available to comment about Cameron.
No, we're not. It's Channel 7 News. No, we're not.
But it wasn't just the privileged white Terrel family being asked for answers. The likes of Chico from the Rolling 90s, the rapper behind that neighborhood anthem song that Cameron appeared in the music video for, would also be asked about his video being all over the news after Cameron's case went public, leading to an extremely awkward street TV interview where he refused to answer any questions.
The video has been getting a lot of local news attention.
Right.
And it came across my desk. I checked it out and was like, oh, this thing bumped. But do you want to talk about how that video was all over the news a couple weeks ago and the situation that led up to that?
Mm-hmm. I don't want to talk about that.
Okay. Let's see. And if you don't want to answer this next question, that's cool too. People are going to ask me why I didn't ask. But it's known that there's a white dude that hangs out in the neighborhood. How does that come about? A dude that didn't grow up over here by Jesse Owens Park that ends up being affiliated?
I don't know. I don't know nothing about it.
Okay.
One person who was willing to speak, though, was the father of one of Terrell's black co-defendants, who would check in with studious LA journalist Jasmine Canick for an interview, which took place in Jesse Owens Park itself. And in this illuminating interview, he would open up about the double standard of keeping his black son in jail for the same crime that white Cameron Terrel was able to bail out on with ease.
First of all, my son going through hell, you know, in the juvenile system. He just turned 17, but he in there for a serious crime, you know, but I can't understand that how this other guy, because of a color thing and a color issue, he able to walk the streets and be freely able to go to school, go to baseball games. He not on no strict restrictions, not on no monitor, don't have a house to bracelet around his ankle or nothing. So basically, He was in the same case with my son and his other juvenile, but they still got the other 2 kids in there while he's free to roam the streets and do whatever he want to do.
They're both charged with the same charges, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So that would be attempted murder and murder. But
yes, ma'am.
The 2 black boys are in.
They still incarcerated.
He would go on to open up about Cameron Terrel coming around the rolling 90s neighborhood, saying that they were surprised he'd come into the neighborhood and suggesting he isn't as innocent as he's making out.
So a lot of people are wondering whether or not Cameron Terrel was coerced into this, was forced into joining a black gang, that he, that he's innocent in all of this somehow. Can you kind of explain to me the history of this white boy in South LA?
Well, first of all, ma'am, we were shocked when he ended up popping up over here. Didn't nobody know about him or nothing, but believe it or not, we ain't racist over here. We gonna accept you whether what color you are or not. That's the difference what people understand. Black people don't have nothing to be racist about. We already been doing bad. We already been getting treated injustice in the system, period. So what racism we want to have? So we accepted him. But the thing what people need to know, he's not the person so innocent like the people on the news trying to pretend and everything, like, he's not like.
What do you mean?
Well, basically I'm saying this, he was down here, he was involved, and he was out here with the same kids that's in this community. He didn't just pop up this one time only, and didn't nobody force him.
Used to see him hanging around, or?
All the time. This is somebody that used to come to my house, man. This is not my first time meeting this boy.
So Cameron was pretty much known around here.
Oh yeah.
Even up here at this park, up here at Jesse Owens.
Oh yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. This night, it's like, is we couldn't figure it out, but one thing we always knew, like if something ever happened, I hate to say it, if something ever happened, we knew it was going to be a difference.
He would go on to say that he was confused when Cameron began turning up to the hood in a brand new Mercedes, suggesting that he believed something wasn't adding up, and even suggesting that Cameron might have been instigating street activity himself.
Been many occasions he pulled up at my house in his car, in his brand new car. I couldn't figure it out then.
What kind of car did he have?
Brand new Mercedes Benz. That was shocking to me right there. I was like, wait a minute, what you want with my child and what you dealing with my child? First of all, it wasn't about the color thing, but then I looked at the color issue and why you want to deal with these kids that's in the inner city that really don't have nothing to offer you, period. If anything, he was in control, because you got to understand, he the one with the money, with the nice house, with the nice cars, with the nice schools. What do the other 2 juveniles have? They follow in his lead. He in control.
Jasmine would go on to interview another local who knew Cameron Terrel personally from his time hanging around in Jesse Owens Park. He would also suggest that Terrel was not so innocent, suggesting that he had involved himself deeply in street politics and was excited by the trouble he was getting into in the area. He'd suggest that Cameron had caused a problem and then fled back to his rich community, leaving his poor black friends behind.
Cameron, he's not as innocent as everybody would say. Some say he's in.
Now I'm just gonna pause it right there because we need to talk about this in the comments, because y'all gotta tell me now, do y'all think that he was the one running the show? Y'all think he really was the one leading like that and that everybody else was following, or you think it was the other way around? You think he was showing up and he was following? Which one y'all think it is? Y'all tell me in them comments.
Innocent, some say he's not, but the fact of the matter is that you're around here. You're excited by what's going on in your generation. So you're down here hanging with these kids, you're getting in all kind of trouble with these kids. Now when the pressure is on, now you flee back to Palos Verdes, to a safe haven that you know. And you're trying to leave these kids stuck out here with something that you're involved in. So at some point, you're gonna have to answer for that. So because this is a racial thing now, they're trying to make it seem like we're just this violent race like this, and he just got caught up in it and he was forced to do all this stuff. No, he wasn't.
So he was down here all the time?
You're down here all the time. You're hanging with these kids. You got caught up with what these kids were doing.
And he would go on to say that he believed Terrel was only accepted by the local community due to his fancy car and the money.
Why do you think he was accepted down here?
Because of, his stance in life where he...
So if it was just the money in the car that he had that allowed him to get in there like that, why you upset now when he got the money to motherfucking do all the things necessary to get out of there? Money fueled the system right there. And ultimately, you already knew he had it. His family had it, and that's the trade-off. Yeah, that's the trade-off. Traded off this and got that, and then in return you get this. Hand washes the other one, don't it? Or am I wrong? What you tell?
Yeah, you know, his car, his money, what he could provide, you know, the free ride in life. You know, these kids don't have anything when they wake up down here. They come to this park. This is basically all they got. And then here comes a guy in their age bracket that got a fancy car, that can get them clothes, that can do all this stuff for them. Of course they're going to get in there. And he feels some type of way about them, and they feel some way about him. But the problem is when everything goes bad, you resort back to your habitat. And your habitat is Palos Verdes. It's not Jesse Owens Park. It's not Western. It's not none of these streets where these same kids have to deal with.
Now, these interviews didn't get much attention in the mainstream media.
So why y'all accept him the first time? Why y'all let him in? And then now motherfucker complaining. Why, y'all should have put the foot down. That's who fault is that?
At the time. But in my opinion, they provide a valuable insight into the truth behind Cameron Terrell's story. But no matter how things looked to local observers, what really mattered was what the jury thought. And once it came time for trial, unsurprisingly, we would see the Terrell family once again using their wealth to provide Cameron an advantage in the courtroom, with a hotshot private attorney being brought in to make an impressive case for Cameron's freedom, and the ultimate result leaving many in the community that had previously accepted Cameron shocked in disbelief.
Now, did y'all hear what they said? A hotshot private attorney. That's who his family paid for. So think about the person that this lawyer is. This is what he get paid for, is to spin the truth the best way possible to a judge of the law that can understand the law and go straight across without missing no lines. That's what they're supposed to get. They're supposed to articulate in a court of law, and that's what they get paid to do. That's why you pay them so much. They can go up in there and they're gonna do that. And his family has the money for the people who have the most experience. And that's like life. Life would be the same way. You know, you don't get paid for what you do. You get paid for what you know, right? So ultimately, the advantages have always been on his side from the gate. Anybody fucking with this cat should have known that from the gate. And that's why more likely they let him in the door. But he was probably fuel to the fire, in my opinion. But y'all tell me in the comments what y'all think. And let's get back to it.
When it came time for trial, the Terrell family would employ the legal services of Javon Blacknell to defend Cameron. Blacknell is a superstar LA lawyer who would actually go on to defend the Stink Team's Ralphie the Plug, in his case stemming from the gang indictment that was used to lock up Draco the Ruler for around 2 years. If you want to know more about that case, go and check out my video on the life and death of Draco the Ruler. Javon Blacknell is a master lawyer. In fact, he famously got a man off on murder charges when he was caught by the cops loading a 3-day-old decomposing body and a can of gasoline into his truck. With such an impressive track record, Blacknell was essentially able to build a bulletproof defense for Cameron. On the 29th of October 2017, Cameron Terrell would plead not guilty to the charges against him, later being seen leaving the courthouse with his parents and lawyer. Prosecutors alleged that Terrell was the getaway driver for the 2 shooters in the murder of Justin Holmes, with a detective testifying that Cameron admitted that he himself was the getaway driver.
He did admit that he was driving the car.
You see that lawyer right there? He making bank. That lawyer right there is making bank. Parents trailing behind with their heads down, but they paying this lawyer right here to get in this courtroom and battle for this man's freedom. The haves and the have-nots. When you don't have that system about to eat you up and spit you out. That's why they call it the belly of the beast, because that's where you land. You land in the motherfucking bottom. Man, all y'all young cats, y'all better take heed, because when you fall to that bottom, believe me, ain't no one got you. You done traded your soul for a motherfucking jelly roll just like this cat right here. Crazy.
At the time, he drove his car out of the alley and made a right turn on 78th Street.
However, Cameron Terrell's hotshot legal team crafted a whopper of a defense, with the main argument being that Terrell had no idea that the boys with him would kill Holmes that day, with it being suggested that on the day of the shooting, Terrell thought that the 3 of them would simply be going to the area to do graffiti, and saying that he didn't expect to hear gunshots and didn't know that anybody in the car had a weapon, even going as far as to say that there was no way Terrell would have driven his daddy's car if he knew that a shooting was going down. Throughout the trial, Terrell's lawyer called character witnesses, all of whom said they couldn't believe that Cameron would commit murder, with the lawyer going as far as to suggest that Cameron should actually be praised for making friends with kids from such a diverse background. Terrel's defense would downplay his gang affiliations, saying that he was simply fascinated by gang culture from listening to music and watching movies, even sidestepping arguments from the prosecution regarding his W chest tattoo being a sign of gang membership, suggesting instead that the tattoo was simply paying homage to basketball player Kevin Durant, who apparently had the same tattoo. Ultimately, the explosive trial would take place, with Terrel's lawyer fiercely defending him on these points, as depicted in courtroom sketches. And ultimately, after a trial and a 10-day jury deliberation, all of which Terrel was allowed to go home every single night and sleep in his own bed, eventually a verdict was reached on Monday the 23rd of July 2018, and Cameron Terrel was ultimately acquitted of all charges, as reported.
Did you read the top part of that? It said the family was able to put up a $5 million bond. They was able to secure that. If they had assets or they had money or something, they secured that. That's why he was able to go home each night during the trial. 10-day deliberation, and now they came to a verdict. Man, his family was well off.
On by CBS News.
The jury found Cameron Terrel not guilty of all counts in last year's deadly shooting in South Los Angeles. It is a blow to the prosecution, who said despite his affluent background, Terrel ran around with known gang members. Jurors also found Terrel not guilty of 2 counts of attempted murder of 2 other men who were not injured in the shooting that killed 21-year-old Justin Holmes.
Cameron Terrel would make a surprise statement after his acquittal, where he said rest in peace to the victim, a bizarre moment which had a few people giving him the side eye.
I'll say rest in peace, Justin Holmes. He shouldn't have died that day, and I pray for his family every night. This been weighing on me every single day of my life. I don't have to explain myself to anyone. God knows what really happened that day, and God knows what was in my head that day. I'm just happy to be free. I'm happy this is over with.
Damn. Now you just said he don't gotta explain himself to no one. That shit's crazy. Crazy. The devil be walking this earth looking for who he can devour.
Terrel's lawyer said outright that he believed his defense of Cameron was a good story because of his background, his family, where he resides, and his school. Going on to say that he believed the case was a result of blatant overcharging by the prosecutors and suggesting that Cameron was at best a witness to a murder and that.
Damn. Look at that. Hear that? The defense attorney said, adding that his client made a good story because of his background, his family, where he resides, in his school. The money they paid this lawyer to argue that.
That's it. With Cameron's lawyer even telling the court that Cameron now had a newfound love for the law, and as a result he would be headed to Houston to pursue a law degree. And so as Cameron Terrel rode off into the sunset and back to the Palos Verdes estates, once again on the receiving end of the many privileges he'd been born into, his co-defendant.
Damn, that's a cold motherfucking twist right there. Shit. So he basically just told on himself in the last little segment where he said R.I.P. to Justin Holmes, right? Now he's free, and now he's intrigued with law, and he's about to go to Houston to study law and argue and get paid from all this shit right here. Ain't that a motherfucking twist?
Defendants and the victim's family would be left reeling at the injustice and unfairness of this outcome. Many people were not satisfied with the verdict of Cameron's trial, especially those living in the neighborhood where the murder took place.
2 black juveniles are probably facing a life sentence to where an adult took them to do something where he should have been held responsible just as much.
The father of one of the juveniles accused of the murder would tell journalists that his son was going through hell in the juvenile system, even turning 17 behind bars, and suggesting plainly that it was all due to race that Terrel was able to walk free whilst his son remains in jail. Now, due to their status as juveniles, it was never publicly revealed what the outcome of Cameron's black co-defendants were. However, it's hard to believe that they would have benefited from the same leniency, let alone having the funds for a top private defense lawyer to craft such a rock-solid defense. Following the verdict, numerous articles would appear suggesting that race and white privilege was responsible for Cameron avoiding the consequences, with others labeling him as an LA gang culture vulture. However, others would argue that there's a more level-headed explanation of Cameron's not guilty verdict, with some suggesting that the outcome might simply be the result of a bad effort by the prosecution, who spent far too much time focusing on proving Terrel's affiliation with the gang rather than his direct association with the actual murder, with others suggesting that it's commonplace for prosecutors to fail to convict people for murder who didn't actually fire the fatal shot, with some citing a previous case of a car-to-car shooting where a black 22-year-old.
So they said he didn't even articulate the murder right, but rather just prove that he wasn't spent his whole time proving that he's in the gang. Same thing, we all over here thinking, you know, motherfucker just affiliated. He wasn't the main person of the crime right there. So I guess, man, that's how they lose. The defense attorney seen right through that and just punched a hole by his arguments. That's just crazy. But shit, you know, everybody arguing this shit. Why y'all let him in the first place? Y'all should have had y'all foot down first. That's door open. The motherfucker's gonna come and go long as the door open, right?
Who was driving the car was also acquitted on similar grounds. So now for the question on everybody's mind. What did Cameron Terrel do next, after beating this body and regaining his freedom? Well, I know some of you will be disappointed to learn that he didn't start a lucrative career as a drill rapper. In fact, he has kept an incredibly low profile since this case came to a close. The majority of his social media profiles have been taken down or set to private, and many of the earlier images and clips of him with his family and friends have been scrubbed from the internet. However, there's still a rumor circulating that he still bangs for the Crips under the name Blue Eyes, with Reddit posts on the Cali Banging subreddit circulating an allegedly recent image of him. Chico, the Rolling 90s Crip who was in that neighborhood anthem video with Cameron back in the day, was asked about him again in a more recent Innovators interview, but once again refused to comment.
Can you speak on somebody named Cameron Terrel?
Hell no.
It was actually reported in March 2019 that Terrel had been arrested once again, apparently being accused of a carjacking during a wild spring break session back when he was deep into it with the Rolling 90s.
A wealthy young man acquitted last year in a gang murder is again in legal trouble. Cameron Terrel from Palos Verdes Estates is in jail once again.
Jeff, his attorney just told reporters tonight that Cameron Terrel was arrested at Rancho Palos Verdes Estates last night on suspicion of attempted carjacking from a case more than a year ago. This all happened, he says, during Terrel's spring break. The two South Los Angeles juveniles he was with are still in custody, facing charges for attempted murder. And just as friends say Terrel was moving on with his life, in college preparing to study law. Tonight, a spokesperson for the LAPD told me during the lengthy murder investigation, detectives with the LAPD and the district attorney's office uncovered new felony crimes they believe Terrel committed while he was a juvenile. They can't say what the crimes were, only that Terrel was arrested last night.
And he would appear to retain his same lawyer, Javon Blacknell, for this new accusation, with Blacknell suggesting that the cops were simply looking to pin something on Terrel because they failed to pin the murder of Justin Holmes on him. However, LAPD detectives suggested that they had suspected Terrel of numerous crimes whilst investigating his original murder, but declining to comment in more detail, and ultimately nothing publicly ever came of that case, and as far as the public know, no further charges have been brought against Cameron Terrel. Perhaps Javon Blacknell pulled off another sweet courtroom maneuver for his wealthy client, getting him out of any additional charges completely. Or perhaps Cameron Terrel truly learnt his lesson, gained a newfound love for the law, and has indeed managed to keep himself out of trouble for all of these years since. This incident is ultimately the last the world heard publicly from Cameron Terrel, and ever since this case, he's managed to keep a very low profile with a completely non-existent internet presence. However, as the years went on, more and more people have commented on this case. An amazing mini documentary was made on the topic by the YouTube channel Hood Politics, and that video racked up around 9 million views, reigniting interest in the injustice behind the situation. The case has also been brought up in numerous interviews like on Vlad TV, where DJ Vlad himself would actually mock Terrel, inferring that he must have snitched to get out of this situation.
So he probably testified against all of them.
Possibly.
I don't think there's any possibly about it. Probably it had to have been a deal where he told them everything.
Now, that's an interesting point, because I saw a lot of comments in the course of researching this video that really surprised me. Because whilst the majority of people categorize Cameron Terrel as a privileged white kid who was obsessed with gangs and fled back to the suburbs as soon as the going got tough, others on the internet still appear to have a lot of respect for Cameron. A lot of people assume that Cameron Terrel wouldn't be good in the hood or accepted by his former gang affiliates due to what happened in this case. However, the consensus from many commenters online is that he would still be respected in the hood because he stood solid and didn't snitch on his co-defendants. In fact, some images have circulated suggesting that many Rolling 90s gang members still believe that Cameron Terrel kept it more solid than many real gangbangers who would snitch. Some rumours have even circulated suggesting that Cameron's two co-defendants have directly confirmed that Cameron didn't snitch and that his name does not appear anywhere on their paperwork, with some even going as far to point out that Cameron Terrel had abided by the street code more stringently than Tekashi 6ix9ine. At this point, I just want to make it very clear that this story is nothing to glorify or glamorize. As much as I'd like to say that this is a cautionary tale of the consequences of falling into the gang lifestyle, at the end of the day, Cameron Terrel didn't really face any consequences. He didn't even have to wait in jail during his trial. He was able to use every resource he had available to him to improve his chances of getting the result he wanted, all while his less fortunate black co-defendants were subjected to much harsher treatment. But at the end of the day, the most important thing here is justice, because regardless of how different people were treated in this case, the one person who was treated the worst in this situation was the innocent young black man who lost his life at the hands of lost and misguided gangbangers. The senseless killing of a young black man with his whole life ahead of him is truly the most tragic consequence of the gangbanging lifestyle, and it doesn't necessarily matter what color the person is on the other end of the pistol to acknowledge that what's going on is not okay and that we need to do something to try and improve this situation. I hope you had the opportunity to learn something from this video. I definitely learned from writing it. Thank you for watching, and rest in peace to Justin Holmes.
Ultimately, for this cat to have another case, they pulled up another case, and he still was able to beat it with his lawyer. And go on to say you never told or nothing like that, but yeah, he's still playing the scenario. He's still playing that character. And that's crazy. That's how the game go, though. Everybody constantly gonna play that role. Shit. Entertain the streets, entertain the devil. Next thing they wonder why they getting bit. Y'all let me know what y'all think about that right there. I thought that was a hell of a motherfucking story in my opinion. Tap in with me in the comments. Make sure y'all hit that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. I'm about to go eat on something. I'm gone.